Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. The Lee County Board of County Commissioners Continuation Budget Workshop is August 19, 2025. I'm Cecil Pendergrass. I'm the Vice Chairman, and today we are Commissioner Greenwell and Commissioner Wayne had other arrangements today to attend, so we'll be starting the meeting. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for joining us today. This is the final draft for the continuation budget, and we'll turn it over to the county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. At our last budget workshop, you asked for a number of items to be brought forward today. Those being the number of vacancies we have, as well as a percentage of salary adjustments done by the municipalities, other local governmental entities. So that has been included into this presentation. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Whitten.
Thanks, Dave. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Yes, this is a continuation of just the remaining questions from your August 5th workshop. And I wanted to start off, the biggest fund that the county has to administer is the general fund. And this is your general fund and your proposed general fund for 25-26, $720 million. And you may have recalled from the last workshop, we have revenues anticipated or forecasted about $732 million, so we were to the good $12 million. And then the board saw about $6.5 million of projects that we had cut from the budget and that we were going to add back in at the last workshop. So that's kind of where we stand in the general fund. There was a question from the last workshop about a growth increment funding and a question about at some point with growth increment funding we started to fund an equivalent amount each year, not mirroring exactly what the calculation was. And then also what other things we had spent on capital out of the general fund. So the general fund at the end of the year in general fund, whether we have put in money for growth increment funding or not, at the end of the year there are always projects that the board wants to see done, capital projects, and then we, through a series of carryovers at the end of the year, we fund those projects. So growth increment funding is a portion of what's paid out of the general fund, and that has gone to transportation almost strictly since it began. But then there's a number of other projects that we fund out of general fund reserves. So the top is the growth increment calculation, the pure calculation, and the total since 2017, which is about $180 million. And then what the bottom shows is the growth increment funding to at the point at which we suspended it for budgetary reasons, and then also all those kind of end of the year transfers from the general fund for projects, for growth projects that the board wants to see done. I just want to say for growth increment funding, the calculation it's a three-part calculation. So the revenues you receive from property taxes, there's three parts to it. One is a person stays in their home, doesn't sell it, doesn't buy it, they just stays in their home, and that's general appreciation. And then the second part is somebody sells their home. And so they could have been in their home for a long time, so they could have a significant Save Our Homes benefit. They might not be paying property taxes on half their home value if they've been in it for 20 plus years.
Commissioners, if I may, what's important about this slide is Commissioner Hammond brought this forward last workshop and discussed the idea of growth. And what we're trying to show is the board has a number of growth projects beyond GIF. It just isn't labeled GIF. And we wanted to make sure we showed that there is a lot of growth projects that this board has pushed forward to benefit the community to try to keep up with growth in general. So however we move forward with this, we just wanted to highlight what Commissioner Hammond said so that the public could see that there is a large amount of dollars that are dedicated to growth projects. It just may not be titled that way. And I think we're looking at alternatives in the future. How do we show it a little bit better that we are providing those projects specific to growth?
Pete, you were talking about that calculation, though. You were on the second part there where you say somebody sells their home and then it gets basically reappraised or revalued by the property appraiser at the
sale
current market.
price, basically. So what it is sold at, then what it is sold at, say it's sold at the price that it was valued out by the property appraiser, that person, it may be valued at that, but the person may be paying on half the value because they've had that Save Our Homes benefit build up for years and years and years. So it resets, the new person is paying a lot more in taxes. And then the third element is new construction. Mm-hmm. So those are the three elements. I haven't done it. Be somewhat fluctuating, especially when you've gone through some of the things we had in the last few years with the storms and property values that have dropped or have been forgiven for a period of time and then reset, and then all the sales that have happened since then for houses just that come on the market. But anyway, those are the three elements to that.
One question real quick, if I may, Mr. Chairman. So Pete, on that though, I don't remember, I definitely remember that we were going to do this, if your home gets sold and the value gets reset and the new owner is obviously paying on the new taxable value of the home, that's a quote unquote new revenue to the county. And so, that first year that we realized that new revenue, obviously we hadn't budgeted for it. So we take that new revenue and we put it into the growth increment fund. The same thing when you take vacant land and you put a house on it, that's new revenue to the county, and we put that in the growth increment fund. But you mentioned that if somebody's house just appreciates in value, we were originally putting that into the growth increment
No.
fund?
That's what was the revenues outside of the growth.
Good. Okay, so that's kind of how I thought it worked too. So my understanding then, if I'm reading your chart correctly, is that had we just taken the increase in value from homes that were resold and generated a new taxable value and the new construction number, it would have gotten to $49.8 million in
Correct.
2024? Okay. So, I think what you're seeing, commissioners, I wanted to point this out, and you probably saw this already, but we've felt a tremendous amount of growth in the last 3 years in our county. It's like the biggest thing people talk to us about when we're out in the community. And if you look at, we went from that growth increment fund formula was only generating somewhere around like $13.7 million in 2021. And then after the pandemic, it jumped. We felt all those people move here, and you can see the numbers in the new construction and in the resale growth increment, calculation.
Stayed open.
So if we could have had that money, that 39, 31, and 49 million put directly into expansion projects like maybe Burnt Store Road expansion or some other, I don't know. We were originally doing it towards all transportation projects. Obviously, we've got more than just transportation to build when we're talking about building infrastructure for the county. We would have had, well over, close to 150 million bucks to work with, or 120 million bucks anyways to work with, to fund some of those projects. So I guess my ask is, could we maybe direct staff for not this budget year, but as we start to look at next budget year, to figure out how to build next budget year by doing the calculation on growth increment fund and taking that number, whatever it ends up being, off the top and putting it in the growth increment fund so we can budget that for growth projects. And then we build the rest of the budget. So I'll give you an example using like real numbers. Say we get $800 million in new revenue next year, and we say 50 million of it was because of GIF. We just take that 50 million and we put it in the growth fund, and then we build the budget off of 750 million. And that's how we would build the budget for the next year.
I think that was originally what we were doing, because the number restricted. Where impact fees are restricted by district, we could pick and choose. I think when I asked about this in the past, I think you probably were told the same. I guess maybe Pete and Holly. Well, this is also a lot from the hurricane. We had so many properties are basically lost. It's hard to determine then what was lost, what was gained. The new value is sometimes less than what it was before because it lost value because the property's gone. So Was that a challenge too, Pete? I think we're trying to determine which properties were the increase. I mean, is there, the formula worked before, we'd be able to separate what was new and what was old. A house sold for originally 100,000, now sold for 500,000, that $400,000 increase in tax value, that's the growth increment fund increase that first year. Is it harder to tell that now because of the destroyed vacant properties from the hurricane?
I can't, Commissioners, I can't give you a good answer to that. I'd have to do a deeper dive into these numbers and maybe talk to the property appraiser. I think the growth increment worked well when it was kind of a steady increase. I think when it bumps up a significant amount, that puts a lot of pressure on your operating budget.
And Commissioner Hammond, I hear what you're saying. I agree with you. For the future, I'd love to have that tool to work with for the budget so we can itemize and try to fund some projects as we get moved forward, because we're going to continue to have growth pains. We're going to need projects completed sooner than later based upon our CIP. The 5-10-year planning works, but there's something that you can't plan. And we're seeing that now in Lee's County. We're talking about this morning about Lee Road, about the turn lanes and stuff Rob and the staff's doing with the developer out there. But the whole area, if you remember market trends, I keep talking about every weekend where I go, that map for Lehigh was one big red dot. And it's not going to change. You're seeing the growth in Cape Coral. I was out there yesterday and talking to you about the condition of the roads. It's going to, the Cape Coral roads is, you're seeing all that growth, and you're going to see those pockets pop up. You're like, oh, we need to look at this. It needs attention now. We can't wait 5, 10, 20 years for that. So
Yeah. I mean, and that's really what I was hoping to talk with you guys about. I think we're too late in this budget development to change it for this year, but as we, start to look at what can we do next year, I'd like to get back to the growth increment formula and setting that side apart for growth projects, specifically transportation. We are definitely hurting for money for transportation, but, growth projects for sure.
So if I'm following you, you guys have a lot more history here on this, but what you're suggesting is we call out this new money, so to speak, label it as such, and then we can direct staff on how we want to spend that new growth money appropriately and not have it commingled with the rest of the projects as they're listed up here.
Yep, and then think about it, and that's only for year one, because then next year you'll get more growth money, and that new money can just go into the operating budget. So your operating budget will continue to grow as well in order to meet the needs of the operating departments, but
this is more transparent.
But exactly.
You can actually follow the money and see what it directly benefited.
That was the original intent when we created it back in, I think 2017, 2016 timeframe. So
And why did we stop it in last 2 years up there?
I'm sorry?
Why did we stop? The fund is
Balance
still
the
there.
budget.
It was
Just
still there, but it
money
was,
in transportation, is that the two zeros?
the deal was, it was related to following the hurricanes and trying to balance the budget. So we didn't, at the time, our goal was to follow the board priorities.
Okay.
Which is, the GIF is one of those. But with this scenario, GIF would come off first. So at that time, we came to the board, I think, 22, and it started out as a 1-year deal. We weren't going to fund GIF for a year. That stretched. I think this year we were able to fund it in the middle of the year.
Okay.
But it wasn't to the full amount. It was to a limited amount. So that was the process then, and that's why you're talking about this proposed change.
No, I think it's a good idea. I can see, I follow it now. We spend 100% of that money on the transportation money for that, and then we must have carried that forward 1 year in the 22 and then stopped it after that, changed that mechanic. So I support that idea. Thank you.
thanks, Commissioner.
Pete, go ahead.
Okay, Commissioners, and you'd ask for equivalent pay adjustment recommendations from other entities. And so you see the constitutional offices and Charlotte County at the top there, and then the municipalities at the bottom. And also, I know that the state has a 2% increase. I'm not sure I think public safety positions received a higher increase, and I don't know what that is, but so that's not on there, but I know it's a 2% increase for state employees. And then this is the pay adjustment for general fund, your largest fund, and for unincorporated MSTU, just based on what each percentage would amount to. And then we had a question about vacancies. Commissioners, and out of roughly 3,000 employees, 216 vacancies, which is about 7%. And this is pretty standard. You're going to have a number of vacancies that you're not holding for any length of time. They're just kind of churning, particularly in transit, public safety, libraries, animal services are some of those departments that have a lot of turnover. So you're always in a constant hiring process to make sure you can be at as full a staff as possible. Vacancy salaries are not used for pay adjustments, so that is adopted separately by the board and is not changed based on vacancy salaries. And assistant county managers and directors have eliminated it through this last budget process, all unneeded positions.
Do you have a question about that? So each department obviously has their own budget internally, the constitution of those budgets. So if you have a department or a constitutional office, say, for example, has 20 positions open more than 6 months, that's probably over $1 million. Does that $1 million go back to the general fund, or does it stay within their budget for the next following year? Because I know sometimes cities and counties in the past, they try to keep positions vacant for so long, even a year, and those positions are budgeted, but they don't fill them. So it's money within the budget they use for other things. They use it for promotions, internal pay raises, merit raises, what are they going to do? Internal departments, they could do it within their office. Who monitors that? Is it HR monitors that for that? Does your office monitor that money? How much money those 216 positions throughout the budget requires? Because that's probably a few $1 million, that 216 positions. I know it could be a month, it could be a week, it could be 8 months. So 8 months of salaries and employee costs, FICA, FRS contributions, all that stays within the budget. So where does that money go at the end of the year, September 30th?
For the county, it goes back to the general fund. So at the end of the year, we have a report. We have a monthly report. It's called a spend report that shows kind of where we are percentage-wise in the year compared to how much we've spent. 6 months into the year, where are we? Have we spent 50%, more than, less than? It's not perfect, but at the end of the year, then we typically do not spend up to 100%. It's usually a 99, 98%, 97%. So that delta goes back into the general fund. So when you close out the year, that's part of what's reverting back to reserves.
So the $2 billion budget over the past few years, how much money we get back on September 30th after that end of the year budget is reconciled, those positions are unfilled? Is it usually, do you keep track of that, how many millions of dollars that is?
Yeah, I can tell you what that is.
I just know from dealing with cities and counties in the past, you have to go through the CAFRs and try to find out that hitting money through the shell game of moving money in accounts and unfilled positions, fill positions, and get promotions and all that stuff. That's why I'm just curious how much money, that just goes back to the general fund.
Yes.
Does it get applied to the following year's budget October 1st then for the fiscal?
It goes to reserves.
General fund, so it goes to reserves. Right.
Yeah.
That's just something I, as board members, I just know from dealing with cities and counties through the state where other counties and cities would obviously, even with open enterprise funds, they actually have more of art to do it. They can hide money. We always call it hiding, but they would move money and put it in places and bring it back after the fiscal year, September 30th. The money would reappear. But it's just what happens through attrition. You may not have a position you fill, and it's considered either money savings, or it's money they can use for other things within the department, or something else. And law enforcement should use it for promotions. We won't hire people, we'll just promote people. Yeah. So I remember back in the 80s, Frank Wanaka made everybody a sergeant overnight. So they got a promotion because the county wouldn't give them a pay raise. So that's just what they can do. They can move money that way. So, thank you.
Follow up, please. I had asked about this because I know the state during their budget conferences go through this, and they were looking at as you mentioned, the vacancies that are not for a day or a month, but I mean long-term vacancies where they were 6 months to a year vacant, and they were finding what could have been unnecessary positions or unfilled positions, and sometimes that money was getting swept. If the original ask was, we think we need 20 $50,000 employees, sometimes they would just take that money and hire 10, $100,000 people instead. And those positions didn't get filled, but the money got spent on other people. So when you say vacancy salaries not used for pay adjustments, our departments can't do what I just described as, I need $20,000, $50,000 people. Do they have the discretion to then say, I changed my mind, I wanted to hire 10, $100,000 people? Or
if I may, Commissioner, what happens is every position has to be approved by county administration. Okay. So if for some reason there's a budgeted position that was added during the budget process, and they come forward and they say, we reevaluated and we want to do this, we want to do X, so we want this position to be lower. They have to justify it, and then we address it accordingly. So we watch where that money is. So it's not like they can go and add 2 positions. They may be able to downgrade a position, but they have to go through a process to do that. Typically, if they ask for a position, it's been vetted. It's very rare that they come back and say, I want 3 of these because they're much cheaper and I'll keep the profit. No, that's not how that works. So when they ask for it, we vet it, we make them verify that they need that position before we bring it to the board. If for some reason it does change, that money doesn't get swept into the department. So it may show that it resides there, but Pete and his team are all overseeing that as well. Okay. So the senior team really deals with all the positions that come forward. So every time, even if it's approved by the board, they still have to send the justification for it. So like DOT still answers to me. Any position that they have to forward that to me for approval and justification. I personally sign off on each one of those.
Okay. No, I understand the question. Is
Yep.
When we pre-approve a total number, and it didn't have to come back to us for more authorization unless it goes over $100,000 or another.
If it changes to that magnitude, we would bring that forward, but we stay on top of that.
We track those changes.
Yes.
And we can get those answers if there
Yes.
are questions for
Correct.
those. Okay. No, I want to confirm that that's what I wanted it to be. I just wanted to make sure that really was what you were describing, because that was a big cost savings across the state this year, and I'm glad we're already doing that. So, Lee County Doge, thank you.
Go ahead, Pete.
And then, Commissioners, there's 2 public hearings, the first being on a Thursday, which is a little unusual because we have to have it a certain number of days after July 1st, and your Tuesday board meeting didn't meet that requirement. So it'll be September 4th at 5:05 p.m. in Chambers, and then the second and final will be September 16th at 5:05 in Chambers.
Okay.
That is our presentation. So now, if there's any suggestions or anything you would like for us to change or do, we can move forward to the next public hearing.
Do you need us to zero in on the pay adjustment number at this workshop, or what do you need from us today?
If the board so chooses to give us direction to come back at the public workshop to discuss that proposal, it doesn't lock us in. The board can make any discussions they want at the public hearing itself or a board meeting. So whatever you choose to do today, just to move us to the first public hearing, I should say.
Keeping in mind that this is a workshop, so
Exactly.
it's guidance, it would not be formal action.
Correct.
Formal action could take place, as the manager pointed out, either at a regular BoCC meeting or during one of your 2 budget public hearings.
So don't say I move to
Please.
whatever.
I would like
Then I have
to.
to jump back in and say, please don't.
If you would consider.
I would suggest,
Yeah, I suggest.
just no final action, Commissioner.
I don't have, I'll just say this, and Commissioners, I really want to hear discussion. I don't have any strong feelings either way. My goal for this year was I don't want to balance the budget using reserves. So whatever we can afford that allows us to balance the budget without using any reserves, I'm open-minded to. That's just where my head's at.
Yeah, I think we all heard some numbers. I know I had heard some numbers here a few months ago when we heard a $12 million deficit. That was kind of surprising, and obviously, then we were talking about increases and spending money here, spending there. Obviously, I got kind of nervous with that, but in the last few months, we've kind of pretty much have told the employees, we kind of gave this motivation. This is where we're going with the budget. We're doing 5%, and so I look forward to having that discussion in the future, because obviously we want to make sure we support all the great employees we celebrated this morning. Some of them 40 years, by the way. I don't think there's any 40 employees this year anyway in the room today, but you know, if we can afford to do that, I definitely support that 5% increase. So I even asked the numbers when in my briefings about 6 to 7%, how much it was. I think for 7% it was like 1.926 was the extra increase for that, but that was kind of pushing it based upon what we've seen in the area, the normal area, and the raises between the cities and counties and stuff. Because I looked at those numbers before today to see what others were doing. Anyway.
Green button. There you go.
All right, I only have 2 more meetings where I get to say this is the first one of these I've done for budgeting now, so I just wanted to offer a couple of insights for consideration for discussion. I think we have a great team, and that's one of my favorite experiences with the celebration of the employee anniversary, so that's always a great experience, and I value everybody on the team. Some of the things that we're looking at for myself and other local businesses, we all know the economy, and some of these things are cooling, and there's some adjustments that we're all kind of feeling, and I have some concerns that if we don't err on the side of some caution or some restraint right now, that we're going to regret not incrementally trying to reserve some money for next year. So we heard this morning that the state, there's a benchmark closer to 2% numbers out there. But before I get to that discussion, one of the things that I noticed, and I asked for a number that I don't have, Pete's going to get back to me on, is our benefits package. Like, there's the pay, right? There's a pay and there's a raise and cost of living discussion. But the package of benefits that our team gets, and deservedly so, is outstanding. I mean, our health insurance costs, and something I think we should consider when we review our employees every year when we sit down with you and we say, hey, Commissioner Hammond, your base salary is $50,000, and this is your taxes and benefits and insurance. You may have a $50,000 salary, but it may cost me $90,000 a year to employ you, with all the things considered. Our health insurance rates this year, I'm sure you've all heard of this, has gone up $400 a month per employee, right? So if there's been no discussion of any additional employee contribution to that plan, which has been the same for 15 years, I think, to what the employees pay into that, then if we absorb basically $5,000 a year per employee, essentially that is an indirect raise to their package of benefits. And I think that should be considered in the discussion as part of the expense, because there's the cash side of a benefit package, and then there's all the benefits that we have. And our program in health insurance is outstanding, right? I mean, I think we all agree that that's a really good reward, but I know some of these other constitutional officers have considered, I didn't give a raise in cash, but I absorbed the health insurance. That was something that was brought up from some of the constitutionals. So I can understand that adjustment, and respectfully, at my company, we pay a portion of our employees' health insurance plan, but we pay 80% of the plan, and the employees contribute 20%. So that as those premiums change or go up, then everybody knows we're all on the same team, right? But it's not free. If it's not free, then they don't understand what they're investing in or what the value of their benefits are. So I don't think, some people may or may not know that their health insurance for a single employee here costs $18,000 or $19,000 a year. So if you're a $50,000 employee, that's a 40% bonus on your benefits, and that $5,000 health insurance premium is getting a 10% pay raise. So I just would like to, I think it's fair to look at the whole picture of how, I think we would treat our team really well, and they treat us really well. I just wanted to make sure that we covered that part of the discussion, but I haven't found a line item yet to tell me what our cost for the whole county health insurance is in the budget yet. So I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think I'm HR, I'm sure HR covers that. Obviously, the FR's contribution and all the other workman's comp and FICA that it costs an employee. You take an hourly employee, say $50,000, it probably costs, like you said, like $90,000.
Right.
Time you add on the benefits and everything with the FR's contribution and everything. But as insurance, as you know, in the private sector, it's an issue. I think if I went back on the city's insurance from retiring city, I think it's $2,000 a month right now. If I went back as a retired city, for family coverage is $1,000 a month $4,000 a month for family, $2,000 a month for health individuals. So healthcare is obviously a great benefit. And I think we've always tried to explain that to the employees. I think the employees understand that now. I think they
Well,
do.
that's why they stay
I
so
think.
long too, right? It's a longevity benefit.
Well, you see the difference between counties and state. There's a reason why a lot of the state employees come over to the county afterwards. So we see that happen a lot. So
I'm just wanted to make sure that we reminded people of the value of their whole package here as part of their team.
there's also morale. I will tell you, people will obviously want a decent paycheck to feed their family, survive. But at the end of the day, morale is probably the biggest benefit of the whole employment issue. You hear that now with just other offices, either state or constitutional, where people, the morale issue is not for pay. They won't stay there just for the pay. They'll go somewhere else. They can find a better place to go, city or county, to go to work if they're in that type of field, depends on what field they're in. Or they'll go to private sector too.
No, I think it's a fantastic benefit.
Right.
That sizable increase, all being dropped on the staff, and some of the constitutionals they all sign up for that same plan, are all dealing with all this to overcome in their budget. So I think different people have displayed it different ways, but I just thought it was worth the
I
discussion.
think now compared to 10 years ago, I think what our administration has done here with our current HR plan is actually try to create a more healthier employment base. So if you look at what we've done now compared to 10 years ago, the claims have gone down. You're going to have those large claims based upon health issues. It's unpredictable, but I think overall we're a healthier work group than we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. That helps us also with the bidding process when it goes out to bid. You see the claims. So I know our HR does a really good job trying to benefit healthier things throughout the year and preventative care. They do that. So I'm not going to go to the whole plan of what they do for preventative care, but there's a lot of benefits out there they provide to employees. A lot of employees are taking up use those benefits to make sure they have preventative care to reduce those long-term health care costs. So help get our costs down.
We must have had to adjust our rates for health insurance because we had a lot of claims, I would assume, right? I mean,
And we'll have, I'm not sure of the dates.
I like the healthy part.
We always have a big health fair thing outside. You'll see it outside your window. I'm sure staff will let you know when it's coming up. I forgot what month it is. But they do a big health day and prevent, the last few years has been outside. But they'll do that. You can see all the benefits they have and all the employees use that. And you'll see that all the different constitutional offices uses that.
Yep, I saw that there, but
Yeah.
the raises in the premium, was it 22%? So was that a result of increased premiums or expenses for claims?
It's a result of, Commissioner, it's the result of just the cost of health care is increasing dramatically over the
On a
last couple
national
of
level
years.
too. I mean, go get a X-ray or an MRI and it's $20,000 they charge our insurance. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that's a healthcare issue we're having across the nation, locally too. I mean, this is what happens. And if you have an answer to that one, please help us with that, because we'd love to see the state and the federal side attack that whole healthcare thing, because, like I said, you just go in for an MRI and it's $20,000 they charge our, you pay your $20 copay or whatever, but we're getting charged, they're getting charged that, and that's why we write that big check every year to pay for the healthcare coverage.
Well, I
But
appreciate
they keep,
handle that, but
they keep-
it's above my pay grade.
so, too bad Michael's not here from Lee Health.
Healthy again.
Too bad Michael's not here from Lee Health. We can ask him about what Lee Health is doing to help us reduce those costs to healthcare.
I think it is a good point that you make, Commissioner, though. I mean, so when you come to work for Lee County as an employee, certainly, I know obviously the money that you take home in your paycheck every 2 weeks, when you get paid is obviously the big focus that any employee, that's the whole reason why any of us work, right, is to earn a paycheck so that we can put food on the table. But your employer's doing so much more for you than that. We're providing insurance for you that if you had to buy on the private market, would probably take a huge amount of money away from you. So that's part of your total compensation package. You don't really see it, but you need to know that it's there, and it's part of your compensation for working at Lee County. And So, yeah, no, I think those are good points that you're bringing up, and I think certainly, wherever we land on the number here, letting the employees know that we budgeted to absorb that increase, into the budget here, I think is a good thing to let them know, because it's part of their total compensation package. It shows that we appreciate the work that they're doing. And so, Pete, I guess to kind of get back to where I started, do you happen to know that number off the top of your head? What would be the number that we could afford without having to use any reserves to balance the budget?
Up 5%.
We could, okay, and that's both in the unincorporated MSTU and the general fund?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
I mean, if that's where we're at, we wouldn't have to use any reserves to balance the budget, then that's, as I just said earlier, then I'd be okay with it.
What number was that?
He said 5%.
Right, yeah.
Well, that's how we set it up at the last workshop, was he
Yeah.
approved that, so then told us what was left over after.
That's the number we've been kicking down the road through that schedule down to hit today's date, so.
Yeah. Again, my goal when we started this budget year, and I want to thank you guys so much for the conversations that have helped us get here, is I did not want to have to use any reserves to balance the budget this year, because I want to go into next year with a balanced, healthy budget, ready to go, because I do see that in just the housing market, prices are coming down, so values have got to be coming down. We might have to make some more tough decisions next year.
Right, and that's something early on, in our own house, we could tell, our own staff, we got to keep everything as is until the constitutional's all for them. This is where we're looking at being next year. This is obviously a value decrease, so from the sheriff down, we're actually looking at reductions, so we have, no increases maybe, so. As far as their budget goes, like I said, internally, they can do stuff. They can do that. They can take their current budget and make adjustments within that budget, still do pay raises to their staff internally if they want. I mean, so they can do it in concert of being promotions, or they can do it within the vacant spots of the positions being unfilled, because they do that a lot. When you have 1,000 employees, you have 10%, not filled. That's 100 people. That's a few $1 million. They can take that money throughout their departments and still make increases beyond what we give here, and that's what they've done in the past. If they want to do that work themselves internally and make adjustments based upon staffing, personnel, and assignments.
I apologize. I just thought of one more thing I wanted to talk about before we close out the budget and head to the budget hearings, if you're ready to move on to a different topic, because it would be changing subjects.
Right.
I have one other.
Okay, yeah.
I just wanted to run this by you because I saw a couple of other municipalities use the word performance in their layout on this presentation. And this is something I wanted to ask you guys about. When you average something out on a percentage, then potentially the superstar doesn't get rewarded, and a lower performing team member gets the same raise as the superstar. And maybe would it be worth considering looking at a hybrid pay adjustment where we pull the 2% cost of living amount of money in, and then give discretion for a bonus or rewarding good behavior with the money, performance-based use of the money, so that we can reward good behavior and extinguish bad behavior, and use that as a.
I'm
more of a
laughing because I make
merit-based
this argument
system.
every year, and this is like the one year I haven't made the argument.
Oh, well, then I must have had a good idea.
But no, you did.
But I want to, your 10 out of 10 person getting the same trophy as the 8th place finisher in the race. I'd like to be able to see, we didn't get the money just because we got older. We used the money to incentivize the best of the best.
I know we talked about it before. I can't remember all the past discussions about it. My position has always been, it sounds great. I've worked under both, but the problem, I think, in the past we had here, you got so many different departments. You got a department with 8 people in it, you got a department with 80 people in it.
Right. But they know
The problem is the supervisor becomes discretionary. You have, this friend's this one's going to get this friend, and this person gets this pay raise, this other going to be. It creates a lot of morale issues with internal. I think what we do now, people will get promoted based upon their service between their work quality and stuff. I mean, we have 10-year employees, like we saw this, 30, 40, 50-year employees. there's pros and cons. It's great to have the merit pay raises, but then the downside is for management reasons, which we wouldn't deal with it, but for staffing, when he has managers, directors, has to pick and choose who gets it, you know what I mean? Then you're gonna, somebody may not deserve it. I totally understand it. Believe me, I totally get that. But the problem is when you do that, you have discretionary, you have people who are either discriminated based upon their friends, who they hang out with, who not go with. So it's just what happens in city and county work. It's just the reality. It's gonna happen in some department. You know, somebody doesn't like somebody because they did something. He says, that's just what happens when you have departments with 100 people in it, 300 people in it. You know, but again, this is my personal opinion.
I think we have an amazing administration, and I would be comfortable with their management and leadership skills being used for that judgment, because we have Manager Harner here running the ship to make sure that those favoritism and other things wouldn't come into play, or else that person would be part of the problem that would be getting extinguished.
You're good. I've made that point before too.
Oh.
No, it's funny.
I mean, accountability is part of leadership.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you're the one to be applying this, or your director in the departments, and I know you'd be litigating all the complaints and all the cases. And I understand, Jane, but we have not going to go back. And if you look back the last 6 months, the employees we lost here at the county, from leadership down to entry-level employees, you're going to have that challenge of who's been terminated, who's been challenged as far as their discipline, and that will come. Then when the pay raises come into that, it creates more hardship. Again, I'll let the county manager, do you have a comment about it? Because it'd be up to his staff applying this, right, you know, and providing it, and then making that decision. I mean, so
every corporation has that with every management or vice president.
I mean, and I do want to hear Dave's comments. And here's what I think, Commissioner. I appreciate you bringing this up, because it is actually something that I say every year. There's different people with different personalities, right? I mean, some people really thrive on performance and reward, and they're very competitive, and they want that, and they need that reward, and it motivates them to do a better job, and that's just how they are. And then there's some people that's not a motivating factor for them too, and doesn't mean either one is wrong. It's just how we're all wired differently.
Different wiring, I guess.
Right, and so I don't know that this is a conversation for this specific budget, but maybe would be a good strategic planning conversation to have as we build next year's budget. So we'll talk about, as we build next year's budget, really nailing down that GIF calculation, really getting that in at the beginning of the budget preparation process, maybe a different way to do performance measurements, and maybe you do, like you said, a blend of cost of living and merit or something like that. I'm always open to having that conversation, and maybe it goes nowhere again, or maybe it goes somewhere this time. I don't know. But let me just finish with this one point. I think the reason why a lot of us are wired this way is, what's the first thing we ever do in life? We go to school, right? K through 12, we go to school. And what do you get at school? You get grades on your work. And yes, in the beginning, when you really don't know much, you start out with satisfactory or unsatisfactory. And I was always such a proud parent when Jacob came home with all S's on his report card, you know, because he's doing a good job. I always got talks too much in class, whatever. I think you guys get that now. You see that. But then you start to get into a point where you've got to earn A's, B's, C's, or D's. And whether you got an A, B, C, or D really correlated to pretty much how hard you worked in that class. And I think, so it wires you as a person that if I work harder and I study harder, I'll probably get an A, I'll probably get better grades. And then you even had extra credit and things like that. So the grading system that we're all set up for in school really drives a merit-based performance mentality. And then I have this belief that we could create something that would be objectively fair, that could grade folks, that could give them, the people who are motivated by performance, something that they need to know that they're doing a good job that would motivate them. But again, we have this conversation. I don't think we're going to get it in this budget, but I think strategic planning is a great time if you want to talk about it.
I had to do it. I didn't realize you did it 10 years in a row.
Oh,
but I will tell you, when we went to profit sharing instead of Christmas bonuses for end of the year bonuses, it didn't cost me a cent, because the employees found their bonus money by the habits and the money we saved and didn't break tools and machinery and equipment, the net pool. It was definitely a win-win situation when we were all spending our money. And when I just paid them because it was Christmas, they just thought it was December 15th and I get a check. And they didn't have any investment in the success of the company. And it wasn't looked at the same way, and it's paid tremendous dividends in the culture of our organization. And I just wanted to see if there was an opportunity, like we able to say, how do we make public and private interest benefits where there is a reward for doing good, or you got a reward, or you got a raise or a bonus or a promotion that allowed you to reach higher as you go. And I think you're perfectly capable of doing all these things. So, yeah.
I wish there was a happy, easy way to do that. I agree with you. It needs to be that way. For example, doing my 30-minute lunch before this meeting, I actually got my ear bent for 20 minutes about how an inspector came to the people's house to inspect the roof, and within 30 seconds, the guy was a total jerk, and how the county employee did this wrong, did this wrong. So I know we hear that about services. The difference is your employees are trying to sell a product, get a job, where our employees are trying to inspect a house or try to submit a permit. Some of the jobs are not, if they're at a computer imprinting a permit, they're not really trying to sell something. So it's kind of, I think the same from right. Again, if that person's on the phone, answer the phone, provide a service, we want to provide good quality service and be nice to people and be welcome to people. But they're not trying to sell a service, they're provide a service. That's the difference between private sector and county sector. But believe me, I hear it every day from people. Right. That person should be recognized for that, and that manager should be documenting those compliments. If they're not being complimented, their complaints, that manager should be dictating that. They should be qualifying that complaint, keep a record of that, either do training or not training, do some type of retraining or something, or taking discipline against the person. It's just some jobs can get rewarded, and some jobs would be they're out in the field working. It's kind of like they never see anybody, they don't get contact, so that person's not going to get rewarded. That's why I'm saying every job is unique, but love to provide some type of merit raise increase for people that are providing a good service, because again, probably half their complaints we get is because somebody called a county office, they got put on hold, they got cut off, they got, they didn't get service after being on the phone for 4 hours. I've gotten those calls before, so it's very frustrating because I know we have great employees but that person answers the phone, how do you determine who's good in the service and bad service? That's the problem, So I get it. Like I said, I had that conversation at 30 minutes before I got here today, which I'm not going to say anything to anybody about it. So forget I say anything, Mickey and Dave, so it doesn't matter. But the point is, that's going to continue to happen, but we don't want the private sector, we don't want the public sector to see that. We want them to have a good view of the Lee County employees, and we're rewarding them with a 5% increase. Whatever it is in the future, we want them to be earning that. But unfortunately, there's people I work with out of the city, I still don't know how in the world they ever survived, but they did. They're in drop now probably. But the point is, there is some way, and I don't want to be like, for example, I don't want to say a certain university area. I remember saying to one of the presidents before, how can this person work for you? Sends an derogatory email to the board under their FGCU email, I just said it. How can they represent FGCU and send this derogatory email to us and still have a job there as a professor? And well, I can't touch them because the union down here at FGCU with the professors, they can do whatever. I can't touch them. I don't want it to be like that where he cannot manage his employees based upon bad service. Unfortunately, places like that, sometimes they're pretty much untouchable to a certain point. So anyway, we don't want to be that way.
Wanting to reward good behavior discussion
right.
Point that I was on, but would it be fair to say as a takeaway? Would it be fair to say as a takeaway from this workshop for future discussion at strategic planning, we could look to see if there were any means and methods to put those measures in place to reward good behavior? I
would agree 100%, and I'll just put one last thought period on it. He didn't move that. He just suggested it. I'll close it with this. So I appreciate the comments about how it demoralizes a lot of folks, the potential for favoritism and things like that. But on the reverse side, the flip of the coin side is, it's also very demoralizing to people who are high performers, who are motivated by getting that praise, by winning that competition, if you will. It's very demoralizing knowing you put 110% of your effort into something and you still got the same grade as the person who didn't turn in their homework. You know what I mean? And I know that we don't have that kind of a disparity here, but I'm just using that as, when I was in school, that was very demoralizing. If I worked my butt off, I wanted to get that A, and it would really have upset me if the person who did, D-level work got the A too. That's all, you know, and so I think that's demoralizing to some of our highest performing employees who may be driven and motivated by that reward or that merit increase. We just need to consider that as well as the way we consider the very good points that you made about the favoritism and things like that. So that's how I'll close it.
Yes, so what we'll do is we'll bring that back for strategic planning. I believe that process will start working with you here relatively soon. Once the budget's buttoned up, we start that process. We'll come through and we'll, you know, have our facilitator come through and talk with each of you. We'll include this as one of the topics to start off with, as well as some of the carryovers from the last strategic planning session. So that session will either happen at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, just depending on how calendars work out for all of us.
Not a motion.
The suggestion. Yes.
Can I move we adjourn? No, I'm kidding. Real quick then, it sounds like if we buttoned up everything, before we leave the budget and head to the September budget hearings, we have not really discussed in any of the workshops the library millage. And Pete, could you just tell me where are we at on the library budget, the library millage? Last year, we actually had a pretty large surplus. We were able to hit the rollback, I believe, on the libraries. Where are we at on that budget this year?
I don't have those specific numbers, Commissioner, but I am sure we will have a surplus of some sort. So I can get that to you between now and the public hearing.
Yeah, could you maybe send us a memo on
Yeah.
that? And in the memo, could you outline what rollback would do to the budget and what that would look like?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because I think, Commissioners, just based on my knowledge of where we were at last year on the library budget, I think we'd be able to hit that rollback again this year. And at least, you know, that's a countywide millage rate that we could definitely see a little relief on.
We'll bring that forward for the next, by the next public hearing, or the first public hearing, I should say. So I think we have our process to move forward. What we'll do is, unless you see otherwise, we will have the 5% in the budget for discussion when we get to the board meeting. And then from that point, you'll give us direction on what you'd like to do, so you know that we have the capacity to that level. Okay?
Anything else? Board, you good? Only two of you guys sitting there. So you two guys good?
Zelina means Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you. We are adjourned.